All right, welcome back to the channel, everyone. We've got a few Cavs games to catch up on. It's been a minute, so I said this on a post already, but this last weekend was super busy for me. Halloween is like one of the only holidays that I actually care about. So, I was out. I was having fun with family and friends. We didn't do a post-game pod or any video for the Raptors game or last night's game against Atlanta, but we're back, and I'm ready to recap a few things from both of those games. The Junkyard Pod should also be back on Wednesday after the game against Philly, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of that. And let's go ahead and just get into this. Now, there are three main guys that I want to talk about in Jaylon, Tyson, Evan Mobley, and Donovan Mitchell, but I want to start off by quickly shouting out a few other players. And we'll start with Craig Porter Jr. because I've thought Craig's defense over the last week has just been really encouraging. Like, Craig is a guy who we've been tough on for his defense in the past, and I still think he has a tendency to get lost ball watching or to lose his man. He can get caught behind the ball chasing, but I think that the last few games here, he's really bunkered down. He's done a good job of funneling his man into the help defense. So, like, even if he is getting beat, he's doing a good job of, as long as you just funnel your guy into the right area, then you can still pass and be fine on defense. And so overall, I felt like Craig has been pretty impactful on the defensive end because of that and because of his athleticism, the energy that he's bringing to the floor. I thought he made a genuine difference against the Hawks. And I also thought Tyrese Proctor was showing some really good defensive instincts versus Atlanta. He also helped change the game. He's just got a really good build in the backcourt to be a gritty point of attack, physical defender. I thought both Proctor and CPJ, honestly, in the first half, they were a little underwhelming against Atlanta, but then they both had a stretch in the fourth quarter that just energized this team, helped them rally together, and change the entire momentum of the game. So shout out to both of them. Also a shout out to Lonzo Ball, because I tweeted this already and I've talked about it on this channel a few times, but the Cavs clearly miss having a microwave scorer like Ty Jerome, like Karis LeVert in years past coming off the bench, right? Like, it's obvious when you look at this team that they could really use that scoring help right now. And so if you're just looking for that, then it would be really easy to get annoyed and frustrated with Lonzo Ball because he's not that type of player, right? Like, scoring isn't his game. But if you look at Lonzo for who he is, then I think he also changed the game in that fourth quarter. He was huge to the Cavs offense. I mean, they went through some super ugly scoring droughts throughout this game. They had a hard time getting into the paint. I thought the Hawks it never felt like they were making the Hawks rotate or scramble on defense. Even Kenny Atkinson after the game was like, hey guys, we're shooting way too many threes, right? We got to get to the rim. We got to put some pressure on the defense to shift and morph and all that. And I thought Lonzo, through his passing, really helped the Cavs break the dam and get into a flow offensively in the fourth quarter. The Cavs started running this double drag with Donovan Mitchell coming off of multiple screens, and then Lonzo would either feed Mitchell the ball with an advantage against Luke Kennard, or Evan Mobley would slip a screen, and then Lonzo would get it to him in the middle of the floor, and then he could make a read from there. And the Cavs offense just had some real flow to it for the first time all night. I thought Mobley really found his groove in the final 5 minutes. He scored or assisted on 11 points during that stretch, and so much of that came from Lonzo Ball just being the quarterback, right? Being the initiator to get these plays started. And like I said, just getting the ball into the middle of the floor and allowing, just the delivery to Evan Mobley and allowing him to put some pressure on the Hawks defense. When you have a playmaker like Lonzo who can quarterback and open up the floor through his passing, then it really helps in situations like this. And so I want to pivot now to focus on Mobley for a bit longer here, because I'll be real with you, I thought this was a bad game for Mobley. Outside of the final 5 minutes, he was good on defense. He's always good on defense, but offensively, through 3 quarters, I mean, man, there were some really rough moments in this game. And I think when we highlight those final 5 minutes with the Cavs getting Mobley on the roll, catching on the go, that's really important, because I'm telling you, when Mobley looks his best is when he's catching on the move. Jackson wrote a story on Fear the Sword recently going over examples from the Toronto game. I mentioned it in my last video talking about the Boston game. Evan Mobley is awesome when he's catching the ball on the move. And it's obvious when you watch, right? Like, yeah, when Mobley's trying to create entirely on his own off the dribble, the results can be pretty hit or miss. He's had some really good moments. He's got some really ugly moments to start the year. But basically anytime that you catch this dude with an advantage, Mobley just turns into a monster. He's dunking on people. He's finishing at the rim. Like, he's a really, really good offensive player, and it flashes when he's able to catch with an advantage. The Cavs, they're still trying to find the right way to tap into that talent, the right balance for all of this. And so I pulled some of these numbers on Twitter, and it might surprise you that even though Mobley's touches have increased this season by nearly 20 more touches per game, his touches in the paint have actually gone down. So he's getting the ball way more in general, but he's getting it less often in the paint. He's also attempting 4 times as many pull-up jumpers as he did last year, all while shooting just 33% on those attempts. And so clearly, the Cavs and Evan Mobley, they have to find a better way for him to generate offense. One positive that I found is that Mobley is handling the ball more often in pick and roll this season, and his efficiency has actually gone up. He's in the 87th percentile as a pick and roll ball handler compared to being in the 32nd percentile last year. And this kind of ties back to what I was saying earlier. If Mobley is playing with an advantage or he's using a screen, then he's pretty good. It's some of those broken down plays where they just kind of toss him the ball, where he's bringing it up the floor and they're asking him to create something out of nothing. Those plays can look pretty ugly at times. But I thought Donovan Mitchell said something really interesting after the game, in that Mobley right now, for the first time, is learning how to score against a defense that knows he's trying to score, right? So when you think about it, in the past, Mobley has always been more of a play finisher. Now he's the one starting the possession. He's starting with the defense loading up against him, and that's where we're seeing a lot of these growing pains. And so my last thing on Mobley is that I do think he deserves credit for his playmaking. I know being an offensive hub has come with its warts, and he hasn't looked perfect yet, but in terms of his passing, he's been pretty on point. Shout out to real Cavs fans for pulling this on Twitter. Mobley is having the best playmaking season of his career by the numbers. Now, of course, we're only 7 games in, but I think Mobley's passing has really stood out in a few games, especially this last one against Atlanta. He threw a couple really nice passes out of the pick and roll, both as a ball handler and as someone who's catching it on the short roll. He's just got good instincts, and he gets the ball out really quick. I think Mobley's passing will look better and better as he gets more comfortable, and especially once he has more options around him, because right now, this Cavs team, they're so banged up that he really isn't playing with a full arsenal. Now, the next player that I want to talk about is Jaylon Tyson, because I thought Tyson was fantastic against the Hawks. I mean, he really stepped up on both ends of the floor. And honestly, this is now 3 games in a row where Tyson has just looked like everything you could ask for in this situation. Now, I still don't think he's the perfect fit for what the Cavs need with all these injuries, right? Like, you'd much rather have an elite on-ball creator or a motion shooter out there right now. But for what Jaylon Tyson can provide, he's given you everything he's got. He's playing so hard on defense. He's constantly disrupting plays, deflecting passes, roughing people up. Like, sure, he's going to call for fouls, but he's bringing a level of physicality that I don't even need to tell you. You know that this team has been missing that, right? And so Tyson's bringing that fire in terms of toughness and competitiveness. But I also think he's reined himself in on defense to not be out of position as often as he was, right? Like, we talked about this, but sometimes he could be too active on defense and he'd end up in the wrong help positions, wrong place at the wrong time. I think he's really cleaned some of that up here recently. And then on offense, I mean, the dude hit 5 3-pointers. What more could you ask? All of them felt huge. One of them was the dagger to really close this game out. And so he's just been feeling it from deep recently. Tyson shooting 11 of 24 from 3 over his last 3 games, and he just plays basketball like a bulldog. I mean, I don't know what else to say. He rams his way into people. He's knocking everyone out the way. It doesn't always directly result in anything, but Atkinson has talked about this, that the Cavs need to be a team that hits first. These guys need to start hitting their opponents first, and let me tell you, Tyson is hitting first on basically every play, and I honestly couldn't be happier with how he's currently playing. I still think there's room for improvement. I still think his fit next to the core 4 can be kind of awkward, but he's balling out right now, and I owe him an apology because, look, I think we rightfully pointed to some of his weaknesses during the preseason and the first couple games of the regular season, but he's covering those up right now, and he's just playing really good basketball, so he deserves credit for that. Last but not least, we got to give Donovan Mitchell some flowers. You know, he always deserves them. Sometimes, we mention this, sometimes we overlook how good Donovan Mitchell is. So let me just say this, and I'll probably say it a lot throughout the season. We can talk all day about whether or not Donovan Mitchell can be the best player on a championship team, or if he's stepping on Evan Mobley's development, or is he durable enough to go the distance in the playoffs? Whatever questions you want to ask, which, by the way, I'm not saying I agree with any of those statements. It's just those are the type of questions that we hear a lot with Donovan Mitchell. And you can ask them all you want. But here's the thing. The Cavs, they're just not anywhere near being a championship team without Donovan Mitchell. They just aren't. He's the reason they are where they are, right? Like, he is the face of the franchise. He's this team's best player, and he's a legit NBA superstar. And he reminds us of this all the time. 37 points on 21 shots against Atlanta. He played this game coming off of an illness, coming off of a hamstring injury that clearly was still limiting him, right? Like, he couldn't get to the rim, but he put up almost 40 points like he was sleepwalking. He made this look so easy. Donovan Mitchell right now is having the most efficient season he's ever had. Now, again, it's not even 10 games in, so bear with me here, but he is in the 94th percentile for points per shot attempt. Only Giannis is more efficient than him right now in terms of high volume scoring, and that's insane. But what's most surprising of all, and what I think should be noted, is that his usage isn't even that high, all things considered. It's actually the lowest it's been since his rookie season. The Cavs are finding ways for Donovan Mitchell to be a catch and shoot threat, even without Darius Garland being on the floor. And yes, he's hit a bunch of difficult pull-up jumpers. He's done plenty of work on the ball. Like, don't get me wrong, he's still in the 87th percentile for usage, but he was in the 99th or the 100th percentile for 5 years in a row before this. So the Cavs right now are just doing a really good job of finding Mitchell some sweet spots to step in and knock down quality looks without carrying too much of a heavy load, being on the ball and having to create for himself. And he's just been absolutely incredible to start the season, which is really nothing new, but it's always worth pointing out. You can have any concerns you want about the playoffs, but Cleveland just flat out is not in a position to compete if Donovan Mitchell isn't on the roster. So those are my thoughts about the last two Cavs games. Like I said, the Junkyard Pod should be back on Wednesday. I think we'll have another film breakdown coming soon as well, so make sure you're subscribed, drop a like, and leave me a comment. Thank you for watching, and as always, go Cavs.